There Pacino is, delivering the kiss of death to Freddy in The Godfather Part 2.
You broke my heart. You broke my heart.
But did you know Al Pacino is also sober? We'll be sharing Al Pacino's story in today's video. Make sure to stay tuned. And ladies and gentlemen, just before we get into Al Pacino's story, if you want to get access to a free video training showing you how to control drinking without AA, willpower, rehab, click the link in the description. There'll be a training video for you to watch there called The Stranger's Secret to Controlling Alcohol. It really shows you how to understand and apply first principles thinking, so if you want to watch that video, please click the link in the description. And now back to the video. Alfredo James Pacino was born in 1940 in Harlem, New York, to second-generation Italian Americans. His mother's parents actually came to the US from Corleone, the same Sicilian village that would later become famous in the movie The Godfather. His father also hailed from Sicily. Now, Pacino's parents divorced when he was only 2 years of age, and the young Al moved in with his mother to her parents' house. He credits his maternal grandfather with playing the most important role in his life, effectively raising him like a father. Now, from a young age, he was infatuated with acting, spending hours imitating the actors that he would see in the movies. Before long, the neighborhood started calling him the actor. Now, at just 17 years of age, he dropped out of school to pursue his acting dreams. For 3 years, he worked various odd jobs, including a janitor and a busboy. In 1960, he went back to Sicily. Rumor has it that he was so broke that he was actually forced to sell his body to an elderly Sicilian lady in exchange for shelter and food. Now, a couple of years later, he sadly lost his mother Rose. This had a devastating impact on him, only made worse by the passing of his beloved grandfather the following year. In his own words, it was the darkest period of his life. To this day, the fact that his mother never got to see how successful he would become is something that deeply bothers him. Now, Pacino would struggle for the next few years, even to the point of living on the streets during the 1960s. Now, in 1967, he got his big break. After having been rejected previously, he was finally accepted into the Actors Studio in New York. Famous alumni of this prestigious institution include Robert De Niro, Jack Nicholson, Marlon Brando, Marilyn Monroe, and many more. From there, Pacino went to Broadway and soon got his first movie role in 1971's The Panic in Needle Park, where he actually played a junkie. And it was also around this time that his own addiction to alcohol started to become a serious problem. We'll come back to that in a second. Now, his big break came in 1972's The Godfather. The film details the story of Vito Corleone, who emigrates from Sicily and builds the Corleone mafia family in New York. The role was famously played by Marlon Brando, and Pacino acted as his younger son, Michael. The director, Francis Ford Coppola, felt that De Niro would be perfect for the role. Paramount Pictures preferred Warren Beatty or Robert Redford, but Coppola was adamant, and the role went to Pacino. Now, that would be a career-making and career-defining moment for the young Al. By that point, however, his drinking had gotten out of control. To make things worse, he was completely broke and convinced that the movie would be a massive failure. Now, Pacino also knew that regardless of how the movie fared at the box office, he wouldn't get to see a dime of the paycheck. All the money went straight to servicing a debt to another acting studio. In interviews, he stated that he was so drunk most of the time that he doesn't remember much of what happened during the film, or what happened during most of the 1970s for that matter. Now, part of the roots to his addiction he traces to the drinking culture of Hollywood. In the acting scene, heavy drinking is far more socially accepted than society in general. This goes back to the early days of black and white movies, when actors would celebrate the final scenes of the day with martinis. By the 1970s, the drinking culture wasn't as strong, but still drinking was rife. Hollywood was definitely not the place to be working if you were looking for sober role models. Another reason that Pacino turned to drinking was to cope with the stress of acting. On set, he uses the classic method acting technique. The technique is all about empathizing with your character rather than faking it. You have to actually feel what the character is going through. Own it, make it part of you. Depending on the character that you're playing, this can actually be deeply traumatic. From street junkie to tragic crime boss, Pacino's early roles were tough, and the toll that they took on him added to his drinking problems. In 1974, Pacino received a Best Actor Academy Award nomination for his role in Serpico. I think that's how you pronounce it. He has publicly admitted that he was so drunk and lost on that night that he did not even have a speech prepared. He was so out of it, and he was hoping that he would not win. Fortunately, For him, the prize went to another actor, sparing Pacino from a potentially very embarrassing scene. Astonishingly, in spite of all of his drinking, 1975 was an even better professional year for the actor. His film Dog Day Afternoon, where he played a failed bank robber, generated over $50 million at the box office from a budget of just $3 million. What the world did not know was how close Pacino had come to rejecting the role. Pacino was so drunk when he first read the script that he wanted nothing to do with the film. The film's producers pleaded with him to read it again when he was sober. He didn't drink for a couple of days, and upon rereading the script, he asked himself why on earth he had turned down the role. So things went on for most of the 1970s. A burgeoning acting career accompanied by even worse drinking. But how exactly did Pacino stop drinking alcohol? Well, Pacino has stated in interviews that perhaps the largest influence on him was his close friend and mentor, Charlie Lofton, who taught him at the Actors Studio. Lofton had struggled with his own drinking problems in the past and begged Pacino to stop. Not stop forever, but just to give it a pause and reevaluate his life from a sobriety standpoint. And that is exactly what Pacino did. But unlike many of the celebrities that we've covered in the past, Pacino did not stop overnight. He describes the experience as gradual and with some help from Alcoholics Anonymous. Pacino had his last drink in 1977, and today he says he doesn't miss it one bit. You know the rest of the story. One of the most decorated actors of all time, with an astonishing 9 Academy Award nominations, 5 BAFTAs, 3 Emmys, 2 Grammys, 13 Golden Globes, and many more. Not to mention a net worth of $120 million. He is the proud father of 3 children, and to this day spends most of his time in his native New York. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.